Welcome to the Spy Collection Digital Edition, where we are looking to spy artifacts that only exist in digital format. My name is Anastasios, and here we will look at a cyber espionage operation which has been attributed by multiple sources to Russia, but to this day it is not known which specific entity was behind it. It's the so-called Operation Backdrop. This operation took place in late 2016 when the Donbas war in the Ukraine-Russia border was at a critical state. Both sides would of course do anything possible to collect intelligence on each other, and that seems to be the motivation behind this operation since the main target was Ukraine. In February of 2017, David Hatch and Phil Neary, cybersecurity researchers from a company called CyberX, identified a malicious file which allowed them to uncover this cyber espionage operation and publicly release their research in a blog post. They were able to identify at least 70 victims that were targeted in a range of industries, including critical infrastructure, media, and scientific research almost exclusively in Ukraine. Examples of that were a company that was designing remote monitoring systems for oil and gas pipeline infrastructures, another company that designed electrical substations, gas distribution pipelines, and water supply plants, several editors from Ukrainian newspapers, a scientific research institute, and also an international organization which was monitoring for violations of human rights, counter-terrorism, and cyber attacks against critical infrastructure in Ukraine. So, here is how the operation unfolded. The cyber operators from Russia were sending emails to their targets with a Word document attachment which was last modified in December 2016. This could indicate when the operation was launched. When a user would try to open it, here is what they would see. The message written in Russian says, "Attention! The file was created in a newer version of Microsoft Office program. You must enable macros to correctly display the contents of the document." Of course, this was a ruse to get the target into clicking the Enable Macros button, which would execute a macro hidden in that document. Once the target enabled the macros, a decoy Word document was displayed. The document was a list of personal information of military personnel, as you can see over here. To evade threat detection software, the macro employed an innovative technique. Its payload was split to 48 chunks, and once the macro was executed, it was putting all of those chunks in a specific order and storing them in a file. With this evasion technique, it was able to bypass 50 out of the 54 antivirus products of that time according to CyberX. So currently we are at a stage similar to this one. Now, this was the icon of the extracted file, and the icon originated from a Russian social media site known as Forpost. Of course, after this file is extracted, it still had to evade any threat detection software that might be installed. For this reason, it was doing something quite clever. It was using a method called XOR encryption to encrypt every single byte of that file with a previous byte. According to CyberX, no antivirus product was able to detect it as malicious due to that technique. The files were then loaded through another technique known as reflective DLL injection, and this is how the malicious payload was eventually executed. The first malicious component was named loadcryptrunner.dll, and it was used to establish persistence. What this means is that it was adding itself to be executed in the background anytime the system was booting. Then it was loading using the same evasion techniques the second part of the extracted file, which was named ismina.dll. This file was connecting to Windows Problem Reporting.site88.net. This was a free web hosting service where the Russian cyber operators had put their command control system and added the deceiving hostname of Windows Problem Reporting. This way, even if someone saw a connection of the infected system to this site, they might think that it was some Windows reporting website. Now, if anyone tried to visit this website outside of the intended targets, they would get back this response from the server. As CyberX researchers discovered, the Russian cyber operators had to first authorize specific victims to access this website. This was done to deny access to any researchers or curious people that want to understand what's hosted there. On the other hand, if a real target was authorized, then what would happen is that when the hidden backdoor tried to reach the server would respond back with another file. This was the main backdoor and it was executed through the same evasive techniques without any visible cues for the victim to notice. Additionally, it employed several other techniques to evade malware analysts, such as validating if this is a real system or a virtual machine, if there are any analysis software running, etc. Once loaded, the backdrop backdoor would log into a Dropbox account which had the following directories. The first one, OBX, contained the modules used by this backdoor. The second one, the IBX, contained the exfiltrated output from the target systems, and the third one, the RBX, contained basic information about the connected client. The Dropbox account was opened using an email address from mail.ru email provider. The most interesting part here was the modules that Backdrop could download and execute on different victims. As CyberX researchers highlight, only a subset of the modules were loaded on each victim. Under the OBX directory, all of the available modules were the following: a file collector that was covertly searching and stealing files from the infected system, a USB file collector which did the same for any USB drives connected to the system, a browser data collector which was grabbing data such as browsing history, stored passwords, etc., a computer information collector which was collecting technical information about the system such as usernames, IP addresses, software installed, etc., a screenshot collector which was taking screenshots of the affected system, a keylogger module which was recording every single key that was pressed by the legitimate user of the system, and lastly, the microphone module which was covertly enabling the computer's microphone and was recording conversations. In all of those cases, the stolen data were uploaded to that Dropbox account, and once operators had what they were after, they were deleting the Dropbox account. Shortly after the disclosure of this operation, all activity ceased, and to this day it is still unknown which entity of the Russian state was behind this advanced cyber espionage operation targeting Ukraine. The tradecraft demonstrated was quite sophisticated, and from the target's perspective, the only thing they'd see is that they opened a Word document with an actual list of military personnel information. Who knew that covertly someone was not just stealing their files, but literally listening to their conversations? A great example that nothing is as it seems.